All right, we are back getting ready to talk Chris Sims' top 40 quarterbacks list. We did this last year. I imagine this is going to be a trend moving forward where
Oh yeah.
it's a good conversation starter, no doubt. But before we get into that, before we get into the episode, I do want to wish everybody and their loved ones a very happy and safe Bobby Bonilla Day. It is July 1st. I don't know if we've had an episode on July 1st up to this
No,
point.
I
I don't know
don't
if it's
know.
falling on a Monday. So I want to take this opportunity to wish everyone a happy Bobby Bonilla Day. $1.193 million in the bank for that man, and it's going to last for another 11 years. And I saw Adam Schefter tweeted this out. He's making more, Bobby Bonilla is, today than Brock Purdy is going to make all season long this upcoming year, despite coming off of a Super Bowl and everything. Yeah.
So here's my take on it this morning during my morning show. I brought this up during my sports segment, and I laughed because I'm like, well, wait a minute. 5-6 years ago, we all talked about like this is the greatest deal ever in sports. But with inflation the way it is now, 1.9 million is not going nearly as far as it used to go.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. The poor guy.
I mean, listen, he thought he probably
how's he gonna get groceries?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, have you not seen the price of gas in Illinois right now? Hopefully, Bobby Bonilla lives in a state with no income tax. Well, he's a Florida or Texas guy. I mean,
yeah, he's gonna have to drive an electric vehicle or something to.
No, I mean, this is just outrageous. It's outrageous. We are no end in sight here anytime soon. So it is funny. Bobby Bonilla Day. I think it was Darren Ravel who is. I'm not a huge fan of him as a person, but he's an interesting follow on social media. He tweeted out there was a couple other people who are getting paid today. Like today was the last day that Griffey Jr. got paid from the Reds.
Okay.
There's a couple like other things. So it's there's something about. I think it's because it's the start. It's like the start of the second half of the year. You know what I mean? Sure. We are now officially in the second half of 2024. You go, 1 through 6, and now you're in 7 through 12. So I think that's got to be something of it. There's some corporate
like start of quarter 3. Yeah. They clear the books of this.
Some sort of corporate entity could explain it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just funny. I mean, obviously, yes, as the years go on, the 1.193 million is going to be worth less and less overall. As time moves on, but it's just funny that I feel like this has been a thing in a cultural moment for what seems like forever, obviously for at least a decade, and yet we're still 11 years away from this.
Yeah, we're at the halfway point of Bobby Bonilla Day.
Yeah, it constantly feels like it's forever in the distance, and it still is. I mean, it's
there are moments on the internet that are fleeting, right? Hak Tua. It's a fleeting moment. We're gonna get it.
Yeah,
we're in the Hak Tua moment right now.
The craze
it'll burn bright for another couple weeks, and then she, like Tiffany Gomez, will live on in internet lore, and good for her. But Bobby Bonilla Day, this is a candle that will burn bright, and even then, like the year after
it's done,
people will be like, to all those who still celebrate Bobby Bonilla Day, it will live on.
Exactly.
It will live on.
It really will. Yeah, that's.
Was he a good player? I don't even know. I don't know anything. I couldn't tell you what position he played.
I don't know. I think he was a decent player. But yeah, I don't know much about his like career stats. I think he was pretty decent. I mean,
he's in his early.
The Mets were willing to pay a pretty penny for him and say like we're willing to do this deal. So yeah, I mean, he played a while in the bigs, but yeah, I don't know.
I hope he has a tradition.
Grace knows who Bobby Bonilla is. It's like what?
I hope he has a tradition on this day. I really hope he does something where
got to be a good cigar and like drink that he takes out on the back deck or goes out in the water.
Yeah, we'll stick with your version. I was gonna say like hit the strip club. Like he does something, on today.
For sure. He withdraws $100,000.
He resubscribes to all of the OnlyFans chicks that he subscribes to. He hits that resubscribe for the year button. He's ready to go.
I love it. Well, that's obviously in the rearview mirror now with Bobby Bonilla out doing whatever he's doing with his extra $1.1 million that he's got in the bank. But we have bigger fish to fry here today, so let's get into it. Chris Sims' top 40 quarterback list. That episode starts right now. By the way, Chris Sims' running mate on Pro Football Talk, Mr. Mike Florio, has been a part of that NFL Sunday Ticket coverage for quite some time. The lawsuit, and they were able to, bring the news, as was everybody else on all of the other networks. The news that struck down over this past week that the NFL did in fact lose its battle against. The big civil case, basically representing the entire country against the NFL. A jury has awarded all of the customers a 4.3 billion dollar damages, or $4.7 billion in damages owed to customers. And of course, the lawyers are going to get a nice chunk of change out of that too. But this is going to work its way through appeals. So no payouts are going to come for quite some time. Yeah. But to any of you who were Sunday Ticket customers, these payouts are going to be roughly about $200 to $350 per year that you subscribe. So if you had this for 10 years, you could potentially be getting a $3,000+ check when this is all said and done, if everything stands. But obviously, it's a don't hold your breath type of situation here. The NFL is going to continue to appeal and work its way through. But nonetheless, with this initial verdict coming down, a fair win for the consumers of NFL content, and a rare win against the NFL, who seems to really be the victor in many of these situations. Yeah,
like I said on last time we talked, I think to me, I don't care about the financial stuff that comes out of this, right? I was a subscriber for 2 or 3 years straight in a row during that time. So I'm not expecting, honestly, where's my money? I want the news now that the NFL is going to flip this on its head, and like they always do, and turn it into good news for the NFL, is saying, all right, we heard you, we screwed up. Now you're going to be able to buy those games game by game, or buy your teams, just your team's packages, or whatever it might be that they're going to try to do to flip this as like, hey, no, look it, we're actually the good guys, and you love us, and we do, and we will just keep taking whatever scraps you give us, NFL. So that's, to me, now where my focus goes to. I am going to fill out all of the, hey, go onto this website and try to get, part of your lawsuit if it ever comes, just in case, because I'm not going to turn down the money. But that's, to me, now the next storyline, right, is what now comes of it. How does the NFL respond to spin this in a way where they still win?
And from what I understand, for anyone who's curious, everyone opted in unless you chose specifically to opt out. So you don't really have to take any action to receive this money. I'm sure they'll be reaching out to people for any updated addresses and stuff like that. But yes, for the time being, you can expect.
Florio tweeted out the website to make sure you're registered. So go to PFT on Twitter or X, and then you kind of see it there. Because
they update the timeline and all of that on there too. Yeah. So something to monitor and keep in the back pocket. But payouts coming probably now for a couple years, if at all. But yes, I hope that this does actually convert the Sunday Ticket into a much more affordable and manageable service for everybody involved. I don't know how quickly things get turned around. It doesn't seem like this year would ever be in the works. It seems like Sunday Ticket's going to cost you what it normally would this year. And maybe 2025 would be the year that we can hopefully see some change in that regard.
Yeah.
But
what you really just want is, like, the NFL, if YouTube stays with it, is that they allow YouTube to then say, all right, like, you go on Amazon Prime and you search on your Roku or whatever. You're like, oh, I really want to watch the new, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. You're like, oh, okay, well, you can watch it right now on Max because you're a Max subscriber, or you can buy it for $3.99 on Amazon. Like, that's really the idea of, like, what I want in the future for the streaming.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I want games on Fox, CBS, and NBC. The main games, don't change that. But they have this option of saying, basically, search on your Roku, where do I find this game? I don't care if it's on a bunch of different platforms. Whatever you got to do is like, as long as there's the one place where you can go, like the Amazon or whatever. Maybe it is YouTube, where because everyone has a YouTube. You just got a YouTube app and just say, all right, for $3.99 you can buy this on YouTube. Like
Exactly.
That's to me the ideal world that we now live in for how this should go forward. So if there's anyone out there of power listening to us right now, I'm sure other more, big voices in the sports media world or whoever can share that, echo it, have thought of that idea as well. Because I think that's the idea that we all could get behind.
All right. So on your show, I know that you discussed Chris Sims' top 40 quarterbacks.
Yeah,
and
a little
had
bit.
Thoughts about
I didn't
it.
have enough time.
Yeah. So I am curious your thoughts. I haven't dug into that specifically, purposefully, because I knew we were going to discuss it here on the show. So I don't have any spoilers going into this one.
Yeah.
I think I can assume a couple of the gripes that you have with it, and you could probably, assume some of mine as well. So I'll cue it up. This is the list for those listening. You'll just have to hear us discuss this list through it. We'll kind of go group by group here. But for those watching, you can reference this on the screen. I don't think we have any major gripes with the top three. Patrick Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2, Joe Burrow 3. But I could see there's probably an argument for Joe Burrow not being number 3 and moving guys around in here. What were your thoughts on that chunk right there?
So before I dive into that quickly, let me just say the one thing I really love about what Chris Sims does is the one thing I also that to me then causes the most controversy, right? Is that he groups guys together. So because he puts guys in these groups, you get a lot of these, well, I wouldn't put that guy ahead of that guy, but I guess that guy belongs in that group, but that doesn't mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. So he puts guys in groups, which is interesting and fun, and I really love that. And the names I think he comes up with are really fantastic. But it's those same groups then that I didn't get him in trouble to where I'm like, no, you got this wrong. Like, this is just not right.
It does seem like there's, and I don't know what his process was for building this out. Maybe he's talked about it. I haven't heard it, but if he starts with the groups of quarterbacks, that's a problem because sometimes maybe someone fits in a group, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're on the same, analysis in terms of like where they belong. And then you're almost kind of pigeonholing yourself to put guys in certain parts of these rankings just based on the group that they, arbitrarily fit
exactly.
in. That's it should really be making the list 1 through 40. And then after you have your list, say, okay, are there some groups in here? Because there's probably, and I know he has it here for like CJ, but more often than not, you're going to have a lot of just like one person groups then. But it almost does feel like he kind of forced himself to group these players first and then kind of deal with where they fall later.
Yeah, there are 3 one-person groups, but I think the best example of what you point out is 26 through 30. He groups just all the rookies together that aren't Caleb Williams,
not non-Caleb Williams,
and so it's like, well, okay, I think right now Ryan Tannehill's a lot better than JJ McCarthy. If you told me I have to win a game tomorrow, I'm going to choose Ryan Tannehill over JJ McCarthy. But he put those guys together. So that's kind of what I'm, my biggest gripe. I like the groups because I think they're really clever. Like we can start.
And Will Levis isn't a rookie, so I wonder if
he's given that they only played started like 5 games at the end or whatever it might be. So,
but then Anthony Richardson should fall in there too.
I would agree, and that's just the thing. It's just it's funny. So number 1, and that the legendary group, Patrick Mahomes, that's great. I would have extended. I don't have any problem going Allen 2, Burrow 3, Lamar 4, but I would have put Lamar in the Allen and Burrow group of the unicorns. Because to me, Lamar's way more of a unicorn than he is what Chris Sims says is a damn, okay, Stafford and Herbert, and I would put Stroud in the Stafford, Herbert, damn, okay, because that to me feels like all 3 of those guys fit that category, right? Of just like they are unique arm talents, unique physical talents, and literally throughout a game will give you that damn okay versus Lamar is less damn. I mean, he has damn okay moments, but he is a unicorn. Like he is one of one in the likes we've never seen.
Different. Yeah.
And a 2-time MVP. So if you're going to put Lamar 4, that's fine with me. I'm not going to hate on that. But I'll hate on the
Burrow a unicorn? I mean, that seems a little bit weird. Like Josh Allen, I could get it because he's Big Ben.
Yeah.
But for the new age, like much more mobile. And so, pairing the size with the mobility and the arm strength.
No, Lamar is more of a unicorn than Joe. I agree.
Right,
Lamar is more of a unicorn than Joe.
Yeah, because we've seen Joe Burrows before. He's just really, really, really good. Honestly, my biggest issue with these top 5, because yes, he has Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and then Jackson, Stafford, and Justin Herbert in the top 6. Stafford number 5 is pretty rich. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I would put Stafford as the 5th best quarterback in the NFL. That just seems really, really, high.
He's no lower than 7. See, he's no lower than 7. So I like the. I'm not gonna. Again, I'm with you. Like if you wanted to put Herbert and Stroud above Stafford and put Stafford at 7, Stafford's then the line of demarcation, right? So. He's in the top 7. He's not 1. He's not 2. I wouldn't put him 3, but I think the argument can start somewhere around 4 if you're a diehard Stafford fan. But you're a hater, like a total hater, in my opinion, if you put him below 7 right now. So like, I'm with you. I get that, but I wouldn't move him below 7. There's no one in the 8 through 20 range that I think I would put above Matt Stafford right now.
Okay. I struggle with Aaron Rodgers on here because he did get injured last year.
Yeah, he's at 14 and he's in what's called
extremely low.
The wild
for a guy
cards
that's 1 year
group.
removed. Yeah, he is 1 year removed from a
Well, he's 1 year removed from missing the playoffs and throwing a bad interception against Detroit at home.
Sure, but the year before,
he's 2 years removed from an MVP. Yes.
And his talent didn't seem to drop off. It was more like, they as a unit.
The offense was stale, and it just didn't work.
So I don't know. I mean, 14's that's too low. I would. And we'll get there when we get there. But I just, now that we're talking with the Stafford thing, like, I don't know. I mean, I could see. He has Rodgers spelled wrong here in the graphic too. Shame.
It is fun.
But yeah, no, that was just interesting. But I don't have a problem with Herbert. Stroud did only have 1 year. It's like, it's hard to put him below number 7. So I can kind of understand the rationale there, but I think there's discussions.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's kind of preference to that point, but I think we both agree. Stafford led the Rams to the playoffs. They had a very good fight at Detroit in an emotional game, and
sure did.
He had a bounce back, really, really good year with Puka Nacua, looking like Stafford of 3 years ago. And, coming back from that injury. So I give him like that. That's a bump there, even though maybe didn't meet as high of expectations as you have. And, Justin Herbert missed the playoffs this year and did not look great at times doing so. CJ Stroud, again, is so young. It is that weight of what is real, what is not, because we have only 1 year. So I'm okay with Stafford at 5. If you wanted to put them both ahead of Stafford, I wouldn't hate on it. If you wanted to mix and match, but I truly believe if Stafford's lower than 7, you're kind of just a hater. The one guy I could think you might make the argument for, who you could say he could go ahead of Stafford and be in that group, to me would be the guy at number 9 in Jalen Hurts, because we've seen Jalen Hurts as a physical specimen be maybe second to only Lamar Jackson. We've seen him in a Super Bowl outplay Patrick Mahomes. He just had the horrible fumble on that. Again, he was trying to make a spectacular play. Hurts takes the fall a little bit because we know we have this incredible Super Bowl year where he could have been the MVP, but he got injured late. And then we have last year where huge expectations, new offensive coordinator Shane Steichen's out of the building, and it was very solid. It was very okay. They made the playoffs, but they fell apart. He was okay. He was at times, struggled, and then at times was physically a freak like he is. It just felt very okay. And so I think Jalen Hurts is someone I would be willing to entertain the argument for being in the top 7, but I actually think he should be right there at number 8. I would have him ahead of Dak. I would have Jared Goff at 9. I would put Dak in the Aaron Rodgers spot, more like at 14. I would probably move then Trevor into 10, Aaron into 12, Jordan Love 13, Kirk 14, Dak 50, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Here, I wrote mine out. So I'd go 8 Goff based on last year, 9 Hurts, 10 Lawrence, 12 Love, 13 Rodgers. So I only have Rodgers up 1 spot. That's tough. Let's talk about that. In that group then, from 8 to 14, if you're re-ranking them, who do you have at 8? I would put Goff 8. I'm going to stand by.
Let me recap for those listening what we have 8 through 14 here. 8, Chris Sims has as Dak Prescott. Then he has Jalen Hurts 9, Jared Goff 10, Trevor Lawrence 11, Kirk Cousins 12, Jordan Love 13, Aaron Rodgers 14. I agree with you. I think I would probably end up putting I would probably put Jalen 8.
Yeah.
Jared Goff 9.
Okay, I'm not fighting you.
Trevor 10, just because I still believe that injuries were a big part of his,
high upside, giant ceiling.
Talented. And then 11, I would put Rodgers in this situation.
Ahead of Love.
I would ahead of Love, ahead of Kirk. I would probably put Love just after at 13. So probably he might be
okay.
Or you know what? I'm sorry. I totally forgot about the one that I would have move up much higher. I would have, so I'll start with Lawrence at 10. 11 for me would be Kyler Murray.
Yeah, no, I was just about to say it.
And then 12 Aaron, 13 Love, 14 Cousins. And so he has Kyler Murray at number 16.
He does.
That's far too low for the talent and the he's been a productive player when he's on the field. I understand there's some health concerns, but there's health concerns with Joe Burrow. There's health concerns with potentially Trevor at this point too, and Aaron, who knows. But to have Kyler Murray at 16, I mean, he has him after Baker Mayfield. There is no team on this planet that would say we're taking Baker over Kyler Murray to start our year with. It's just, that's absurd.
Baker had a great year, and kudos to Baker.
He did. And yes, absolutely.
But I agree with you. I think Kyler is probably 3 or at the worst. Kyler should be around 14. I would move him up.
At the very worst, yeah.
I would move him up. This is what I didn't catch on when I was doing it on my own, because I only spent a couple minutes on this and I really focused on kind of the top part of it. My biggest issue. So Dak, to me, a lot of this shows. So he's in the awesome contenders, NFC contenders. It's Dak, Jalen, Jared. So then his next group is called the wild cards. I would put Kyler Murray's firmly a wild card.
Yeah.
When it's an ace, it's amazing, and he's great, and he's extremely accurate, extremely mobile. And when it's bad, and you get a joker, he's a, a 2, whatever.
He's
you
running
call
too
it.
much in the backfield.
He's running too much. Yeah. He's taking sacks. He's undersized, and then he's obviously had the devastating injury. So, I think he's firmly a wild card. Kirk Cousins is not a wild card. Kirk Cousins,
you know exactly what you.
Kirk and Dak are exactly the butt. It's good, but it's him and Dak are exactly that. So I would agree. I would move Kyler into the wild cards. I would move Dak and Kirk into the thumbs up butt, and just that would be probably then your biggest group of quarterbacks: Baker, Dak, Kirk, Purdy, Tua, Geno. That to me makes sense. That group upside, but there is the but. Yeah, my problem. Okay, so again, with Aaron versus Jordan Love, really tough start to last year. People forget now how that season started because it ended on a positive note that he helped the Packers go on this incredible win streak, played really great down the stretch, like elite football down the stretch. And then it ended with a bad interception that kind of ruined, the taste in your mouth on that really great season, with that bad interception at San Francisco versus Aaron Rodgers, where we know the dude is a first team all talent in NFL history, maybe, but what is he physically capable of doing right now, and how engaged is he? So I agree they should be 12, 13, 13, 12, but they should be right next to each other. And I think that's kind of funny in its own sense. They are the two ships passing in the night for the Green Bay fan base, right? The fall of the once great and the rise of maybe the future great. So I think you and I are very similar there. I think he's overrating Kirk. He's overrating Dak. He's underrating Kyler. And I think there's a slight underration of Aaron Rodgers in that as well.
Yeah. I think that I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. That's kind of the situation of not just preference, but more so how you're actually analyzing their impact on their team. Because I do agree with you that like the categories are starting to not match up at this point necessarily with who we have in there. And Kirk's a great example of that. I do think that the good but category could probably extend to like another 10 quarterbacks, honestly. I mean, that might be the one category that's applicable for the majority of quarterbacks that are on this list. But obviously,
I would agree, because if you look at numbers 21 through 25, you could obviously put them in the good but I do like that he broke them down a little bit and gave them their own. And I do personally, now that you're going to say this is biased, but I do personally think that Caleb at 20 is a good reset of the list and a line of demarcation.
It is. Because it's very much establishing the next set moving forward.
Let's be honest, let's be real. He's never played it down in the NFL. So if you had to win a game tomorrow, Geno, Tua, Purdy, Baker, Kirk, Dak, obviously you'd want them starting that game. Like, you have to win this game. You know what I mean? Tomorrow, life depends on it. I would rather those guys than Caleb because, again, we have zero experience of Caleb in that. But I would also argue right now, if you're just going on feel, talent, upside, momentum, Caleb being at 20 over a Derek Carr, over Russell Wilson, over his, now going to be compared to Justin Fields, Daniel Jones. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would say, I'd argue that right now, if you're telling me I had to win a game tomorrow in the NFL and I get Caleb or I get Deshaun Watson, I know what I'm getting with Deshaun Watson, and it's looked ugly the last 2 years and injury prone. Caleb could look like Patrick Mahomes did in that first start of his second year where he threw for 5 touchdowns. And it's like, we don't know. Like, we just don't. I'd be more willing to risk it on that than I would be Deshaun Watson or anyone else on this list, the remainder of the list, besides maybe the person he has at 39, but we'll get to that a little bit later on.
Yeah. Geno's the one quarterback that is super hard to evaluate because he did have that career resurgence similar to what Baker Mayfield has had.
Years in Seattle.
Yeah. He's just it's a hard quarterback still to like understand and evaluate and analyze because he is really an anomaly in a lot of ways. So I think 19-ish, like right in this area, is probably fair. The only thing I would say is that I think the upside, I truly believe this. I'm not just saying this because I'm a Steelers fan. I truly do believe Russell Wilson has upside to get into that like top 14. He could have a top 14 season. Like,
I agree.
Finish the season that way.
I totally agree.
but I do think it's fair to rank him right around where he's ranked here, starting at 21.
Yeah.
For Chris Sims, and I do want to call out because someone commented on one of our head quarterback head coach combo videos from a few weeks back, saying that he lost it when we said Tomlin's a top 7 to 8 head coach and Russell's between 15 to 20s. This person commented saying that Russell isn't even top 30. That's a hater. That's a big hater move right there.
That's hater. Russell, look at the footage from last year and look at the box scores and the stats. Russell had a very Geno Smith type of productive, efficient year. The problem is the expectations were Sean Payton was either going to fix him or, you know what I mean, or it was going to be a disaster. And it ended up kind of being the lackluster in between where it was like
lukewarm.
He fixed him, but it doesn't feel right still. So is it that Russell is now being just not gelling with Sean Payton, or is it just Russell still really, really struggling? We're going to finally know an answer on Russell this year.
I think
and
so.
Unfortunately for Russell, it comes with a defensive head coach, a new offense he's got to learn again. Now, some really solid offensive line play, solid weapons. So he's not going to be on his own, but he's now got a ton of pressure to kind of save his soul, save his career, save his legacy, and not necessarily the most ideal situation. Not only new team, new coaching staff, new playbook, but also brutal division. Dan, can I ask you though? So let's talk to Deshaun Watson real quick.
Yep, number 24 here on Chris.
I'm willing to put Watson higher on the list. Like I'm willing to talk about Watson being somewhere as high as 20. Like to me, he could be 20. I think I like the category he is in because I think it absolutely rings true. But I do think there's still something there that there's meat on the bone to where 24 feels just a tad low. Like
it does.
I
would agree with you.
Tad low. Like I got to be honest right now, if you told me Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson to win a game, I think I might lean on Deshaun Watson. Derek Carr looked really shaky last year in his first year in New Orleans. There were times where I just didn't trust Derek Carr at all to make the right read and to make the right throw and to be accurate. Like he looked so shaken that he wasn't in the comforts of Raiderland anymore. And Daniel Jones, obviously, I have more faith in Deshaun Watson than I do Daniel Jones to win me a game. And if you're talking about Russell Wilson right now, I think it's kind of a coin flip. And I would argue that Deshaun has more pure athleticism, but I do trust Russell's judgment and his football knowledge over Deshaun. So I could maybe make the argument that Deshaun could bump up to 21, 22, but again, that's being nitpicky. I don't know if it's worth being so nitpicky.
Yeah, 21 Russell Wilson, 22 Derek Carr, 23 Daniel Jones, 24 Deshaun Watson, 25 Justin Fields. I think 24 Deshaun Watson could move up to the 20-ish range, lower 20s. I do think, like, if I'm trying to decide between Geno Smith and Deshaun Watson to start a game, I'm probably going Deshaun as well, to be honest.
Over Geno?
The efficiency of Geno,
I think I'd go Geno.
I do think that the upside is still there with Deshaun. And, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on with Deshaun. But yeah, if you had to like swap out, I mean, he's definitely better than Daniel Jones. Like I'm putting him ahead of him. I'm putting him ahead of Derek Carr, probably too, in that situation. So yeah, maybe he goes from 24 to 22.
Geno, I mean, he only threw for 20 touchdowns last year, but only 9 interceptions. So he's a better than 2 to 1. He did throw for 3,600 yards. Now, 2022, it was 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, over 4,000 yards. But you're talking about a guy now who, in the last 2 years, with Geno, has thrown for 7,800 plus yards, 7,900 yards, basically, 30 touchdowns to 20 50 touchdowns to 20 interceptions. Like Geno's got a lot more positive vibes going than a Deshaun. I would absolutely trust Geno over Deshaun to start a game right now. Now,
yeah, I think I look at this list in terms of we're giving everybody a clean slate and assuming health across the board.
Yeah, and I would agree that's how I'm trying to look at it too.
Because then it's hard for Deshaun. It's hard to really evaluate Deshaun because he's just been hurt. He's been hurt this whole time. He had flashes right before he got hurt again last year where he was looking like, starting to put things together and looking good.
Yeah.
And then it fell apart. So yeah, I mean, I think probably if you want to be safe and go with the more likely, outcome, you're going to get that with Geno. I just think that there's a little bit higher ceiling with Deshaun. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not gonna complain too much about him at 24 because it's hard to know. It's hard to know.
I would put my stamp on Caleb at 20, Russell at 21, Deshaun at 22, Carr at 23. I would put Fields at 24 and Jones at 25.
Yeah. I think Fields is better than Daniel Jones.
I would trust Justin Fields right now to win me a game over Daniel Jones. Because again, your positivity with Daniel Jones is, well, he's athletic. Well, Justin Fields is way more athletic. They're both struggle throwing the football.
And they both are turnover prone. Yeah.
They both are turnover prone. So you're not in great shape with either one, but Justin Fields is that much more athletic. I would argue then here's also where the list gets a little funky because, again, I like the category name for Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields, shit or get off the pot. That they literally, those three guys are absolutely in prove-it years. The Browns are going to be stuck with Deshaun to start. Like, he's going to be on their roster again this time next year, no matter what happens, unless it's truly, truly abysmal. But they may draft a quarterback. We may be talking about Deshaun Watson having to compete for his job, and then they're paying a rookie nothing. And because they at this point, they have to figure out like the next steps of their franchise. Sure. If you are the Giants, absolutely. Daniel Jones is absolutely playing for his football career this year in the same sense it felt like Justin Fields was playing for his football career last year. Justin now has a little bit more leeway in the sense that he will probably not have to start the season. Justin just is in that moment where when you get your opportunity, we both think he will, you've got to be a better version of what you were, which is a ton of pressure, but it might actually be easier for him to do because he'll have a ton of time to prepare. He'll have the kind of humbling of being benched and being a backup. And when he comes in, the expectations will not be so great. So they'll just be self-motivated expectations as opposed to team-motivated. I also struggle with this because, like, to be honest with you, if I play the game of if I had to start a game tomorrow and I had to have a quarterback start a game for me tomorrow, there are a couple guys in the 31 to 40 range I would start over Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
So
same here.
That's where the group thing gets weird. Like, does Daniel Jones still have a higher ceiling than Ryan Tannehill? Sure, right? There's more meat on the bone. But if I had to win a game tomorrow, my life depended on it, I'd be much happier if Ryan Tannehill was my starting quarterback than Daniel Jones.
Or Anthony Richardson or Sam Darnold.
I agree with both of those. I would also agree with
Joe Flacco or Jacoby Brissett. They're not going to turn the ball over.
Yeah, Jacoby's tough. That's tough.
Gardner?
Because he's such a statue. But Gardner, absolutely.
I like Gardner. Gardner is woefully underrated on this list.
No, and this is, again, where this is the next. Now we're talking, honestly, 24, really like 23 through 40. It's the groups are overwhelming the actual, in my opinion, rankings, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Because
exactly.
I would think Minshew is more like somewhere around the 25, 26, 27 range.
Yeah,
as a
Chris
starting
has him
quarterback.
at 39 as the second to last on this list.
I would put Brissett ahead of Stidham like he has. I would put Flacco, though, ahead of Brissett. I would put they're kind of
Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, if I had to win a game, would I trust Jaden McDaniels over Brissett? Probably. Jaden Daniels is the rookie that there's such a physical upside. I'd be willing to roll the dice on that.
Yeah.
But the rookies are tough. I mean,
yeah, like I don't know about JJ McCarthy. Like maybe
Bo
he's
Nix.
taking into account that
You're putting Bo Nix ahead of
Vikings.
Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew was a game away from getting the Colts to the playoffs, and you're going to put Bo Nix ahead of him?
Yeah, no, that's bad. That's bad. And I understand it's the shiny new toy type of thing where it's the what if, what could be, kind of envisioning that. I don't understand how. I mean, we only saw 2 games of Anthony Richardson. But what we did see from Anthony Richardson was
incredible,
good, right?
Yeah, he's a freak.
I don't understand how Bo Nix would be ahead of Anthony Richardson.
Yeah,
when we haven't even seen anything from Bo Nix and JJ McCarthy as well. So I agree with you. Unless he's only taking environment into account there. But then again, I mean, the Colts is a pretty good situation for a quarterback. So yeah, Anthony Richardson there at 32 doesn't make much sense when you have Bo Nix at 29.
I agree.
Jaden Daniels at 28. 30 JJ McCarthy, like any of those guys don't deserve to be ahead of Anthony Richardson, even though Richardson has a 3-game total sample size.
Yeah, I would probably go, if we're going to stick with like, okay, Justin Fields at 24, Daniel Jones at 25. I would argue I would probably rather go Gardner Minshew at 25. Then it's really a preference of to start a game to win tomorrow. Like I'd take Tannehill over Daniel Jones. I would take Anthony Richardson over Daniel Jones.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would take Darnold probably over Daniel Jones to win one game. I might even take Jameis. Like Jameis, that's tough. But like the rookies need to move down. Like Jaden Daniels can live somewhere, in my opinion, around 26, 27, 28.
Where are you at on Will Levis? Because he has him there at 26. I kind of feel like that's perfect.
I think that's fine too. Because I would take Will Levis to tomorrow as like my quarterback over Penix, over Nix, over McCarthy, certainly over Tannehill. I would take him over Darnold and Bryce Young. I'd
probably take Richardson over him, actually, now I think about it.
Upside-wise, I'd take probably Richardson, but they'd be right next to each other. Maybe go 26, 27.
Mm-hmm. The rookies just got to be further down.
But certainly then, it's again, the groups just start to throw all this into wackiness. But it's not crazy. To me, the only thing it's really crazy about this is I just don't get how you have Gardner Minshew as the 39th best quarterback. Gardner Minshew is more like the 27th or 28th best quarterback. He's 10 spots too low.
He's a starting caliber quarterback.
Yes. Daniel Jones, if you want to put Daniel Jones there, fine. I would have kind of chuckled a little bit, but
sure. I would take Daniel Jones over Kenny,
Yes, I would probably.
I'd probably take Daniel Jones over Flacco. I mean, Flacco's probably lightning in a bottle. He's very stiff.
I would agree.
In the pocket,
I probably would take Daniel Jones over Flacco for a whole year. For one game, I'd take Flacco. For a year,
Bryce Young is the hard one here to figure out.
So Bryce Young. So who would you take? Who would you, of the young guys? Forget Tannehill and all of them. Of the young guys, who would you take over Bryce Young? So I'd take Levis and Richardson. Would you?
Yes, I would. Yeah.
Would you take Jaden Daniels over Bryce Young?
Yes.
I would as well. So then we have to ask ourselves, would we take Penix, Bo Nix, or McCarthy? I think I would take Young over Bo Nix and McCarthy. Penix would be a toss-up.
I'm pretty much in agreement with you there. Yeah. Because Penix is what Bryce Young was billed as, only Penix is bigger, and has maybe a little bit more mobility than Bryce Young does.
Even though
well.
all the injuries, it's crazy. I would take,
Yes.
so I would probably, in that grouping of the young quarterbacks who are not Caleb Williams. So we're talking about the other rookies and second-year guys. We are in agreement that we would go Richardson, Levis, then we would go Daniels, then we would go Penix, Young.
Lash Young, yeah.
I would go Penix over Young at this point.
Okay.
Penix, Young. I think I'd take JJ over Bo Nix. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, that one's tough. I don't know. I just don't. JJ's a really one of those prospects that seemed like it was very hard to evaluate because he's on a. He's probably a very good leader on a winning team. Has some mobility, underrated mobility probably, and is decently accurate. But he just the wear and tear. He wasn't really put to the test on several occasions. He didn't have to go win them the game in the fourth quarter very often. And then Bo was in college football for 17 years. And it's like, I know he ended his ceiling career
low.
as
his
the most
ceiling just
accurate,
feels low.
But he had some really inaccurate seasons mixed in to, he really bumped up those numbers in the latter years of his college career, which is great. I mean, that's what you want.
I don't think Bo Nix is who he was as a freshman at Auburn. Like, I'm glad he got better. I'm glad he improved.
Right. Yes.
Maybe I would take Bo over JJ. I think they're very a toss up. And I know in like 2 years from now, this could all be held against us because they could both be like really good.
Yeah, it could look really bad. But Caleb Williams could look like Kenny Pickett.
But all right, so of the last two draft classes, I'm struggling now. Do I like Jayden Daniels more than Levis and Richardson? That's my question right now.
I don't know. I mean, Daniels was a 1 year type of thing, right? And
again, he was in college football for a long time.
Yeah,
and it was a slow build to that last year that was an explosive year.
Correct. There's been many cases where that's happened, and that's an indicator of them having great NFL careers.
Joe Burrow was a slow build to one gigantic year.
Burrow was, I guess, 1.5 gigantic years, but
it's tough. Like, because Jayden Daniels just also is the only guy on this list who I truly think in an echo chamber of their own athleticism is Lamar. Like, he could hold a candle to Lamar. Like, I know close. Anthony Richardson's more like Josh Allen. Well, I don't know. Did you see Anthony Richardson's dunk the other day? Did you see that?
No.
Dude, look up
Anthony
on
Richards
Twitter.
Is probably closer to Cam, actually.
Yeah,
because Josh is has become a much more accurate quarterback. And not to say Cam wasn't accurate, but Cam was much more about just the big play regardless. And he could run and also had a cannon for an arm. But I got to check out.
Everyone do it for yourself a favor. Look up the Anthony Richardson dunk. He looks, the dude, I thought I was watching Anthony Edwards, like, just do a sick dunk. I was like, what am I watching? And they're like, oh, that's Anthony Richardson, Colts quarterback. I'm like, dear God. It's insane. It's insane.
I got a 6-second clip here.
So, are you watching it now? Pull it up. Watch it.
All right. Yeah, I just watched it.
Okay, so then I would argue, let's try to go from the bottom up here a little bit, too. I'd say Stidham belongs at the bottom. I would then probably put.
I would probably, not that it matters. It's number 40. We're arguing over the 40th best quarterback. Mason Rudolph deserves to be 40. I would trust Mason Rudolph to win a game over Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah,
Mason Rudolph at least had
more time.
Those moments.
Yeah, But of the names on this list, I'd probably go Stidham, Flacco, Brissett, Pickett. Tannehill, Darnold, Jameis, and then the young guys start mixing it. Then that group of
I think that's fair. I mean, maybe I'd put Jameis behind Darnold.
Like, Minshew is ahead of that group. Minshew is ahead of the young guys, but he's not. He does not belong in the bottom with those guys.
Definitely
now
not.
Minshew might have a terrible year in Vegas, and then we could say, all right, yeah, he's really just more now your spot starter. But I just don't know. I can't wait to watch Minshew
He
play
gets
this
the
year.
benefit of the doubt, I'd say, to at least show us what he's got,
Yeah.
and work through that. So
It's crazy
so
to think about those. To think about the last year and this year's rookies and trying to rank them. It is it's a really hard thing to do because we need to like readjust it after like at least like 3 games. Can we get to like, can I just watch these guys play like 3 games in the NFL? Then I'll give you a better idea of like, I think post week 3, can we make like a reminder for ourselves? Post week 3, rank the rookie and second year guys one more time. Because Stroud is obviously number 1. And then it would go Stroud, Caleb. I'm convincing myself into Jane Daniels because he doesn't have the injuries that Anthony Richardson has. And Levis popped, but Levis, I think Levis's ceiling is still Jay Cutler, which is like good starting quarterback, but he'll get you in trouble.
Yeah. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think today, if you told me, Mark, they're all in front of you, start your franchise, I would go Stroud, Caleb, Levis, Jane Daniels, Anthony Richardson. That's what to be my 5. I'd give Levis the benefit of the doubt, and I'd say if someone can work with him, like his new head coach and offensive guy, just build up that confidence in the arm, but also the mental aspect of like really reading a defense and making a smart decision. He's got all the tools, and we saw it at times. And the injuries to Anthony Richardson really scare me. But I would take Anthony Richardson way ahead of Penix, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, and Bryce Young.
Yeah. That's pretty fair, I'd say. Yeah, it's an interesting thought experiment.
Dak needs to be lower.
That's why these lists are fun.
Kyler needs to be a couple spots higher.
Yeah.
I think we agree that, and then I think we agree the only other person who was like really screwed on this list was Gardner Minshew. Everyone else could have a slight gripe here or there, but Gardner got screwed.
Purdy at 17 seems right as well, and we talked about.
I'm okay with
we
Brock.
didn't really touch on Purdy, but
Purdy behind Baker, I think is fine because Baker, what he did in that offense versus, what Brock Purdy has to work with, was very impressive.
Yeah. No doubt.
Like I would take Baker for the next. If you told me you have to give a 3-year, contract worth like good money, $45 million plus, to Baker, Purdy, or Tua or Geno, I think I would choose Baker of those 4.
Yeah, I mean it'd be between Baker and Tua, and I'd probably go Baker as well.
He's sturdy, he's thick. I mean, he's not as injury prone as Tua. And he's got a number 1 overall pick swagger still to his game.
Sure.
And he's been humbled already. Like this version of Baker is the version you want of Baker. He's got still some swagger, but he's been humbled.
Yep. For sure.
Watch, he's going to have a terrible year. And then
I mean, gosh, it could happen. I mean, a lot of these, there's a lot of toss-ups.
That's what's so fun about the summer.
Because there's a lot of quarterbacks in contract years or having to prove just recent contracts or having to overcome teams in the downfall. Like there's a lot.
All right, here, last thing to put a button on this. Tell me one guy who's not in the top 10 this year that you think is a lock for the top 10 next year on Chris Sims' list. And then you have to tell me who you have to tell me who is fallen out.
Gotcha. So a lock based on what I think Chris Sims will choose or what I would choose.
A little of both, right? It's Chris Sims' list. Yeah. So
okay, well, next year of the top 10 quarterbacks, I think Dak. I mean, we already think Dak shouldn't be in the top 10.
Yeah, he's easy.
So that would be an easy choice for me.
Yeah,
I think the
too.
Cowboys might have a little bit of a rough down year.
I agree.
Even compared to their standards, which is usually 10, 11 wins, make the playoffs and lose.
Well, 12. It's been like 12.
I could see them being an 8-9 win team. Like I could see that happening. So Dak would be the guy that moves out. Moving up, Trevor, he's number 11 right now, so he doesn't have far to move. So if I wanted to be a little bit more uh, forgiving or a little bit more risky, Caleb. I mean, if Caleb has a great rookie year,
the sky's
10.
the limit.
I mean,
Sky's the limit.
CJ
He's got the
Stroud is
CJ
number
Stroud.
7.
He's got the CJ
Yeah.
Stroud potential. I would go with the safer bet, and I would go Dak's out, Jordan Love's in.
Yeah.
Because Trevor, Jordan Love, Kyler, and Caleb to me are the 4 that are like the year. If they have good years, they're on the prowl. Like they're scrapping and clawing to get in. So those are the 4: Jordan, Trevor, Caleb, and Kyler. Like those are the 4 that are like they can move up. They really can. Because even if Tua has a big year or Brock Purdy has a big year, you can still in your head justify, well, he's not 6'6". He's not 230 pounds with a rocket arm. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers obviously could be that 5th candidate to move in, but he would have to have a phenomenal year. I really do think that. And if you look at Mike Florio,
it's certainly possible.
If you want to I know we're wrapping up real quick. If you want another fun thing to do, look at the Mike Florio just released his first power rankings. He called it the pre-camp power rankings. We're talking about Pro Football Talk. He has the Jets at like 25. I think Sims and him got together and said, let's just put the Jets guys way low and it'll cause controversy. Because the Jets should not be that 25. Low. They're more like 14, 13. They have a loaded roster.
Correction to try and combat the hype that people are giving around the Jets. But that's way too far of an overcorrection.
Yeah. Look at that if you want some fun to debate online. I did a YouTube video on that. Check it out on my YouTube channel. But it's a fun thought experiment.
Awesome. Great stuff. All right. Well, we appreciate it. Folks, check us out, as always, at FB Lounge Pod on social media and the For Frequency Sake Podcast Network. For FantasySakeQC.com is the website. Go check it out. We got fantasy football coming up, so a lot of those shows, the Toys for Tots leagues, giving back to some great organizations there as well. So check it all out at the website and on social media. That'll do it for us here on the Football Lounge with Mark and Dan. We will see you back here next time.